Hey, what's up guys and gals? My name is Rick 9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about the Three Stooges, more specifically about the Stooge short that's called The Yoke's on Me. Now this one is the 79th Stooge short released by Columbia Pictures in 1944, more specifically May 26th. 1944. Filming took place between November 8th and the 12th of 1943. And of course, if you think about it, Yoke's on Me, it is a pun off of the joke's on me, that type of quote. I'm cataloging every single Stooge short from number 1 all the way through 190, and we're approaching number 80, which is a very important number. So with this one, 79, we continue on with the list. If you miss any of the previous ones, go check them out. They're in my playlist down below. You can click on it and watch any that you have missed. So let's get right to it. Previously, I've talked before about Stooge shorts that are a little risque, ones that were censored, ones that were banned, and this is one that was blacklisted. It was banned. It was not allowed to be shown essentially on a lot of television programs or TV in general. Remember, these are Stooge shorts. They're short movies that you can see in the theater, but when television started and reruns started, they did not want to put this on television because of how risque it was. Now, why was it so risque? We'll look at that. That's an important element of this video. The Stooges in this one, they buy a farm. However, they are sowing crops, and what is really spicy about this is that they encounter escaped Japanese soldiers, and it's a really interesting one with a lot of puns, a lot of making fun of a certain group of people, the Japanese people, and it is something that is part of history that we'll look at. 1943 when this was produced, and the airing 1944, this was the middle of World War II. This was a very tumultuous time, and you have to understand, for Americans, the Japanese and the Germans were the enemy, and this was very apparent. Of course, even we know that the Japanese people were put in internment camps. Yes, even American Japanese were put in internment camps, and that's why when people say, no, it's the Japanese soldiers that were the enemies, no. The Japanese people were seen as the enemies at this time, and that's why shorts like this were made. The Stooges were essentially not fighting overseas, with rifles and bayonets and things like that, but they believed themselves contributing to the war effort by making these shorts and fighting the propaganda against or fighting the Japanese. Now, there were very heavy tones as well as heavy mockery of the Japanese people, and this was part of the propaganda, as I mentioned. Other Stooge shorts where you can see this is Spook Louder, another Stooge short, No Doughboys, as well as Booby Dupes, and this one, The Yoke's on Me. And each of those contributed to the wartime effort through narratives that had humor that definitely put down the Japanese. Out of all those that I've read, I haven't covered all of them, but most of them, this one stands out as possibly the most contentious because there's so much scrutiny that people place, especially contemporary critics, about this, that yeah, this was blacklisted in certain television stations. Now, if you've been watching from across the United States, some of the stations did allow it, but a lot of them were like, nope, this cannot be allowed, especially states that are known as more liberal states and vice versa. We won't get into it, but it's something to understand. Now, what is happening here is that Japanese American escapees, they leave from a relocation center, and that is intended to have comedic effect. Remember, in 1944, that has sparked a lot of debate and controversy over the years because people say, no, this is not supposed to be funny. Now, the people who played the Japanese characters in this short, they're depicted not as prisoners of war, but escapees from a relocation center. And that adds layers of complexity because these are supposed to be essentially citizens and not really soldiers. And there's even a mix-up in how the actual DVDs and a lot of descriptions of this episode kind of mix those words soldier and just American citizens or just escapees. It's pretty contentious in itself. Now, there's a lot of stereotypes in which the Stooges kind of make fun of the Japanese accent. You see the actors who are portraying the Japanese soldiers, they're wearing kind of these false teeth, these buck teeth. And I know a lot of you are saying, Rick, why are you showing this? Well, I'm showing a snapshot into time, a snapshot into how this was seen as comedy in a time that was so dark, so essentially so sad for so many people, and they tried to add some humor into these situations by adding a little bit of humor. But now we probably don't see this as that humorous, or if we think about it in that time, maybe suspend our belief just a little bit, then maybe we could see the humor through the eyes of that. But then again, this is controversial, and that's why I wanted to cover it. You've seen many of the images and snapshots that I've shown you, and you could possibly see why it is so contentious. But I would like to know, what are your thoughts on this? Should Stooge shorts like this be completely banned, not allowing anyone to see them, especially future generations, or should we just see them as we are and learn them through a contextual and historical lens to what was going on at the time, and see how our humor, or what we believe as humorous, has changed throughout the decades? I think it's a really interesting and fascinating piece to study and to look at, and I hope you do as well. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks for the support as always, and don't forget, everyone, to stay positive and be hopeful. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters, especially my Diamond tier patrons: David D, Jerry D, Citizen Kane 359, Kevin K, Russ C, Russ Cagle, Sally N, and Vito L. If you want to be on this patron list, make sure to check out the links in the description below. Thanks so much.